Let's talk about texture, the importance of texture. A lot of people talk about the importance of flavor, flavor, flavor. What they forget is that we cannot even perceive flavor without texture. Now, bear with me, I'm going to show you a very mundane example, but once you understand the principle behind it, you can apply this to many other forms, including performing and singing music. Now, this is what in England is called a digestive. The equivalent in America would be a graham cracker. It's a whole wheat cracker, not very sweet, with some salt, very unassuming, quite ordinary, not very interesting, and as you can see, it crumbles very easily. When you eat a cracker like this, just on its own, your brain will mostly perceive the texture, the sandy texture, because it doesn't have much flavor to begin with. Now here, we have a chunk of dark chocolate. This is very dense and it's a very strong assuming flavor. Not too sweet either, but a very strong flavor. Now, unless you really take the patience of letting it melt in your mouth, as one should with fine French or Belgian chocolates, your brain will mostly perceive the flavor and the sweetness. But since dark chocolate is not very sweet, again, the brain will mostly perceive the flavor. Now, if you combine the two and you cover a graham cracker or digestive with dark chocolate, as I like to do, then you have both of them coming together. One is supporting the other. It becomes more than the sum of its parts, especially if you add a little bit of flaky sea salt on top. That balances the sweetness of the chocolate even more. And now you have a complete experience. Your brain is loaded with impressions that combine different elements. That is exciting. A cracker on its own is rather bland and boring, and chocolate on its own is also, could be very sensual, but you can't have a lot of it and you don't get the texture that is exciting, and that is crunch. We always like crunch, even if we don't chew on bones anymore, we like crunch. So, what does this have to do with performing? Everything. Think of it this way. A beautiful note is only beautiful in its context. It has to come from something, from somewhere that is different, so we can perceive it as a surprise, as something we had not expected, as something that together with everything around it becomes more than the sum of its parts, because a single note that is just beautiful will not have an emotional effect unless it is wrapped by a context. When you perform, you have to give texture and flavor together. And you have to create a performance that is dynamic, which means that it moves from one to the other. That is what makes it alive. And that is what makes us in the audience sit up and pay attention. And also, you always need to be ahead of us. Surprise us. That's the magic of being a great performer. You have to be completely in the moment and ahead of the audience, and you have to carry with you the past, which is the time that you have spent preparing yourself. It's a tough job, but it's also a lot of fun. Now, if you're too lazy to bake a chocolate chip cookie in the meantime, this is a great compromise.